Friday morning continues on RKW with the full crew in studio. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling. Pleased to be joined, as we are every Friday at 7:20, by our good friend Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's and On3. Brent, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hope you guys are well this morning.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We are excellent. We were referred to in the Pat McAfee show this weekend, or yesterday, as Ramon Foster and a few others. So if we introduce you as Brent Hubbs on joining us this morning on Ramon and a few others, it just totally normal, business as usual, nothing to be worried about.
Well, if you could do me a favor, and next Tuesday or so, just refer to Austin Price as Brent Hubbs is, other.
Exactly.
Comes in. That'll go over real well with him if you can take care of that. Ramon, how much are you paying to be the lead dog on this deal when you work as little as you work? That's my question.
Don't let them break up what we got going on, man. We had a great last Friday, man. I watched Glorilla for you and everything, man. I got a report card on that and all, man.
I understand. I'm sorry. I mean, it's RKW. We are family, right? That ought to be your bump music. Y'all are the Pittsburgh Pirates of
there we go.
Is what you guys are.
I don't know. Only good thing they got going is Gaines right now.
Livy Dunn's boyfriend.
Livy Dunn's boyfriend.
I forgot you're a young pup, Ramon. You don't remember anything.
Nah, all I remember about the Pittsburgh Pirates events are, look, they got a beautiful stadium to watch a baseball game in. Okay, win, lose, or draw, the stadium don't lose.
It is nice. I will give them that for sure.
I love it. Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's with us this morning. Brent, Sam Pendleton on campus for Tennessee. The Notre Dame lineman the Vols are going after in the transfer portal. Fair to say Tennessee, the front runner for him, and what do they like about him as a prospect?
Well, he's a guy who started 7 games at Notre Dame this year. I think one of the more intriguing things is he's got 3 to play 3. So he's not a rental guy. He's not a 1-year rental. You can develop him and you can build around him in your program. He's from North Carolina. He's always liked Tennessee. Tennessee was probably a little bit late to the recruiting party, and that's why he ended up at Notre Dame and wanted to play for Harry Heastand up there, and Heastand left and left before Sam actually got there. But I think he's got a great affinity for Tennessee. I absolutely think it's going to be Tennessee. I think he'll officially start class on Monday at Tennessee, and away you go. I think it's the only visit he's going to take. And obviously, you're getting late in the window in terms of the academic calendar, so you got to get started there. But I think the fact that he's got multiple years and experience, if you're looking for someone out of the transfer portal, and you want to talk about priorities and checking boxes, what you would like is production. Okay, he started. Production at the Power 5 level is a real plus at that position. He's done that. And he's a guy who can play multiple years. I think he checks a lot of the boxes that you're looking for when you're trying to go get a transfer player, particularly a transfer lineman.
So, Brent, the other question we've been monitoring weekly with you is, what about the wide receiver position? Do you expect any other targets in the short term for Tennessee, or will this really just start to become a spring priority?
I think for there to be a target at this point, somebody's got to go in the portal here in the next few days. Now, everybody who played in the national championship game has a 5-day window to go in the portal, which is a little bit awkward because you play that on Monday, so your 5 days really carries into the weekend, but you can't officially go into the portal on the weekend because it's closed, so that kicks you to Monday. And then you get your 48 hours, which starts. And as we learned about Mike Matthews' situation, there are ways to extend that out further. The reason you can't extend it out too much further, I don't think, is because you do have to get some people in school. And some places have started ahead of Tennessee. Tennessee started Tuesday this week, but other schools started like the 6th of January. So you're going to have to get going there. If somebody goes in. The Penn State guys are done. Those 2 wide receivers have picked elsewhere. So unless somebody goes in the portal, and there's been rumors about Carnell Tate, I know, potentially going in the portal, but, everybody's got to see that to believe it. Ohio State certainly doesn't want to lose him, but he's got opportunities to stay there. So unless somebody goes in the portal that we don't see coming, it feels like that's going to go to the springtime when they look for somebody else, if they go with any more receivers right now. And you think they need another body, but what do you think they are? Where's the chemistry of that group? What do you think the ability of that group is? And kind of go from there.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's on 3 with us this morning. Hubbs, I got a nickname for Austin. You ready for it? I got a new intro for it.
Oh,
You ready for it?
Okay.
Brent Hubbs' homeboy, Austin Price is
Oh my
with us.
gosh.
He'll be done.
He might
I
have-
dare
We'll have Grant
you.
R and Blunt
Ramon,
County
I
start to come on a
dare
lot
you.
more on Tuesdays at that point.
Yeah, you'll get 1 week out of that. Ramon. Your phone will blow up in the middle of the segment.
No doubt. Brent Hubbs' homeboy, Austin Price with us.
I dare
All
you.
right, I'm gonna be better. As they start, Hubs, this off-season program for the Vols football team, man. This is one of the most more developing periods of the off-season, man. And I bring that up to say there's a lot of bodies, particularly on the offensive and defensive line, that probably got to be reshaped to add muscle to it. David Sanders, one of those guys. Bennett Warren, I'm sure William Satterwhite, Max Anderson, man. What is the goal for those guys you think moving forward in the trenches to, reshape them to get to prepare for competition?
Well, I think they've all got to get stronger, more physical. And the one thing they can't get that they need is experience.
Yeah.
And at some point, your coaching staff and where you're at's just going to have to, bite the bullet, so to speak, and end up playing somebody who doesn't have a lot of experience. I mean, you can't sit there and go, man, I need a guy who's been 3 or 4 years in my program. I mean, somebody has to start their first time sometime. Yeah. And I think that's kind of where we are. And for the first time, it feels like there should be real competition there. But now you're talking about you're bringing in 2 interior offensive linemen, and you got 2 open spots. You got to find a center, and then all eyes will be on David Sanders. And I think for all those guys, it's about getting stronger and being more physical. But it's about how much can those guys learn who haven't played a lot mentally to put themselves in a position to prove themselves in spring practice. Look, they've been in the weight room for a year. Some of them been in the weight room for 2 years, but they haven't played. So how many of them can eliminate the MAs and all those things in spring practice? So as much as it is physical this time of year, Ramon, college football is interesting. In February now, coaches can get involved in player development. That they can get in the film room with them, and they can do some walkthrough type things with them and different things mentally, which this offensive line group has to take full advantage of, next month. Not just in the weight room throwing up some weight, but really learning this offense to limit mistakes when you get into spring practice.
I shouldn't call you Austin. You must be talking
where your brain
I
is.
deserve that one. Go ahead.
He must be talking about both of us right now, okay? Hubs, you bring up a fascinating approach to teams and how they find starters, man, because to your point, the Vols have hit on some 4 stars, right? Some quality guys in the offensive line, at least on paper.
Right.
What has changed, or what has to happen for a young guy to walk in day one and start, other than being Francis Mauilaga, I think it's how you say Mauigoa, or David Sanders? Like, why do you have to go to the portal to find guys? Is this for job security for the coaches? You know what I'm saying? I'm being quite honest. I mean, I'm very intrigued by this, to why every single year you go get a 4-star, good quality offensive lineman specifically, and you're scared to start them.
Well, I think every coach's approach to things are different. Some coaches are more open to playing young players. I think by nature, coaches always, it was this way when you played, right? It's he knows what he's doing. We know he's going to be in the right place, but we're going to limit mistakes. And I get some of that, but at the same time too, and I've said this, if you're going to invest financially out of your pool of money, whatever that pool comes from the collective or rev share when it gets here, or a combination of both. If you're going to spend a significant amount of money assembling a recruiting class, then you become a younger football team. John Gruden, when he assembled a team in the NFL, they were all a bunch of old veterans because he spent all his cap money on free agents because he didn't want to coach a rookie. He didn't want to deal with rookies. Some coaches are that way. Other coaches built their teams through the draft, and they were a young football team. It's kind of like if you're putting a bunch of money into a signing class, you're building through the draft.
Right.
If you're going through the portal, you're building through free agency. The reality is you can't do a whole bunch. So, like on the offensive line, for 4 years they've gone out and recruited offensive linemen, Ramon. Mm-hmm. But right now it looks like they're 0 for 20 in terms of hitting on somebody because they haven't played anybody. Now, I don't believe they're 0 for 20. But you don't get experience until you play, but you can't be experienced without playing. And so at some point, you just kind of got to bite the bullet and play some young guys. Now, in fairness to Glenn Ellerby, he's had Javonte Spraggins. Yeah. He's had Cooper Mays, right, in his program from the day he got here. So 2 of those 5 spots have been occupied 4 years, and those are the guys you should play because those are your experienced guys. And then, elsewhere they plugged with some transfer players. I just don't think you can go plug with 4 or 5 transfers every year. So you got 2 in the class this year. You got Hurd, who's coming back at tackle. Sanders, you've invested a lot in. He's going to have to play, okay? And then you got to go find a center. And that's what this offseason and this spring practice is going to be about, because you're forced a little bit to play one of these younger high school players, Ramon. That's where you're at this point in time. I don't think you're going to go get a couple more offensive linemen, although I'm sure there's a Notre Dame lineman that's intriguing. I just don't know that you're going to go get anybody else that you're going to be, all right, listen, you're going to have to fill it with some guys you recruited and you've been developing here for the last year or two.
Brent Hubbs, our good friend at VolQuest's, joining us on RKW like he does every Friday at this time. So we've got 4 contracts that are expiring in 8 days, Brent, on the Vols roster here. Defensive coordinator Tim Banks, strength coach Kurt Schmidt, defensive backs coach Willie Martinez, and special teams coordinator Mike Eckler. What can you tell us about the updates on any of those contracts and if they're going to get done?
They're going to get done. I expect Banks to be done first. It would not surprise me if there was Banks news coming at some point in time as early as today. That one's been all agreed upon. This is the final dotting of I's and crossing of T's. I think Tim Banks is going to get a multi-year deal to be Tennessee's defensive coordinator. I think the other 3 are going to be back. Kurt Schmidt's leading workouts right now for this team. So if you were going to make a strength and conditioning coach change, you would have done it. Yeah. 3 or 4 weeks ago and go hire somebody. You're not going to let this guy work with the team for 2 or 3 weeks and then bring in somebody new in the middle of the critical off season. So he's going to be back. Now, is he going to get a multi-year deal or a single-year deal? Martinez has been on a single-year deal for at least a year, if not 2. That'll be the case there, and I think that'll be the case with Eckler. So unless those guys get a job and leave, I expect all of them to be back because I don't anticipate Josh Heupel making a change. And I think Banks will be the first one there'll be news on. And again, I think he's a guy who's definitely going to be on a multi-year deal. I don't know about the rest.
Hubbs, I did not know that I was donating all this money to the Anderson Training Center over there. But I've heard it's just going to be extraordinary. Speaking of Kurt Schmidt, though, that's part of it in terms of bringing in a new weight room and also the expansion of the Anderson Training Center. What can you tell us? Because it just sounds like it's state-of-the-art.
Well, it is state-of-the-art. It's a project that never gets started if it hadn't been underway before NIL came into play. Because, thankfully it doesn't have a slide or any kind of silliness like that. Now, it is going to have like a pavilion area where you can entertain and players could hang out. But, we have a nap room, I need a nap room.
Right.
I want one of those in my house if I can get one of those. So, it's $85 million. It's nice, but wow. In this day and age, those renovations, those expansions, those buildings are somewhat going away unless you just, A, have an abundance of money, or B, you just need, it's just so dilapidated, you've got to fix it, right? Texas is getting ready to redo theirs because they basically don't have one. If somebody wanted to know what was going on with Texas football, all they need to do is have a flat tire on the interstate, and you could stand there and look over and watch practice because it's literally against the interstate.
Dang.
So they're going to fix their situation because it's more out of necessity, much the same way Lindsey Nelson Stadium is getting a $100 million renovation because it's out of necessity at this point in time. So unless it's, I don't think you're going to see major renovations to, quote, keep up with the Joneses in certain places. Now, for fan experience, you've got to do those things. But this addition to the complex would not have happened, certainly not at this scale, had NIL been in play when all of this was approved and dirt was broken and you got started. It's been a slow process. I think they've waited to kind of get some donation money in before they've moved forward. Now they're on track to finish up here in August and get that project done. But it's taken multiple years to get done because it was underway when Danny White got here, and he's year 4.
Yeah.
So they're going to get a lot of other bigger projects done faster than they got this project done.
All I know is reading in the war room that the Olympic sports training room is being taken by the football team. Brent, you knew me when I was in college. I would have been so annoyed. Are you kidding? We were in season at that point. Indoor nope, out of here. Football team's got to throw medicine balls against your wall instead of their wall. Unbelievable.
Well, I mean, you got to know who pays the bills.
I know.
Who pays the bills.
I know. They're the reason why we had shoes. Brent, as you
That's
take
right.
a look.
Without them, you would have walked uphill both ways 10 miles in the snow.
100%. 100%. Look, I'm the most unathletic SEC athlete maybe of all time. I have no ground to stand on here. Brent, interesting. Rick Barnes this week talking about Zakai Ziegler made some headlines saying, if he hadn't been around the program, I don't know if I would still be doing this. That makes some headlines because, well, we don't know if Zakai Ziegler is going to be in the program next season unless new legislation gives players the ability for a 5th season. Are people overreacting, Brent, to that comment? Is Rick Barnes telling us, without really telling us, that this could be it?
I think if you're going that way, you're really inferring and you're really kind of going from A to E or F.
Right.
But let's face it, all of us are on at the end of every year, like, how much longer does Rick want to go? And Coach Barnes likes ways. I think it's more of a Zakai has invigorated and kind of rejuvenated Rick Barnes a little bit. But again, I think Rick Barnes evaluates that at the end or at some point in time after the season. What's interesting about Rick Barnes is he's told me this on multiple occasions. He learned this from Dean Smith. Dean Smith has told people and told Rick Barnes himself once they got through their squabble when he was at Clemson years ago that you don't make a decision on your coaching future at the end of a season because you're tired, you're over it. I mean, Ramon, you can think about this as a player, right? Like how many times you're like, man, I'm done, dude. I'm physically beat up. I'm tired. I'm over this. I'm out, And he said, what you do is you make that decision and you're done when you're going into preseason practice and you don't want to get up and go to the gym. You don't want to go to the practice court. You're not motivated to go there. So I don't know that Rick Barnes, unless his hand is forced, is ever going to make a decision right at the end of a season. I could certainly see Rick Barnes saying he's retiring in the fall much more than I can say that he's going to retire in May, 4 or 5 weeks after the basketball season's over. Now, anything can happen. But that's something Rick Barnes has mentioned to me on multiple occasions. You know when you're done when you don't want to go to the practice floor. You don't make that decision right after the season's over when you're exhausted from what you've done the previous 4 or 5 months.
Those are usually the signs, Hubs. Like it just really is like, man, okay, all right, let me get my mind right. Yeah. When you start having that conversation, after, like you said, well after the season, after the pain is gone and the decisions of what happened at the end of the season happen, like, yeah, that's when you know. But, yeah, don't be quick to jump on that one. I enjoy Zakai's and Coach Barnes' relationship because you don't see that too often with the portal and everything. Again,
that's a great point. You're exactly right.
That's why I just tell people, like, if you want to watch basketball, watch college basketball. By the way, the Lady Vols are close, Hubs. I think Kim, congratulations to her, by the way.
Yeah.
She needs an athletic big that can bang with what Texas and others, South Carolina got. But Kim is close. I'm into it. Don't ask me. Now, my wife forces me to watch it. Okay.
Well, they've just got to rebound the basketball better. I mean, you look at them, they've given up way too many offensive rebounds, second chance points in their losses. Here's the other thing, too, that you have to be a little bit, and I think this is even harder a little bit with the portal. There's an art to winning close games. And I had this conversation with Philip Fulmer back when Butch Jones's team was having a hard time. They were losing some close games back before 16. And I asked him, I said, Philip, you won a bunch of close games. What's the key to it? He goes, you got to be in enough of them and you break through and then you just start to figure it out. I think in the portal world, it's a little bit harder if you're dealing with ones and dones type players, kids who are coming through kind of transient on 1 year, and you don't have all of your cohesion. I think this team's getting more cohesive, but there's an art to winning a close game, and right now they don't have that. Maybe it's one win that breaks through for them, and bam, here you go. But they are close, and her style works. And as they continue to build, she doesn't want to hear any of this, but as they continue to build moving forward, and all of the pieces she would like to have gets in place, then yeah, they're going to be better. But I mean, this is a fun team to watch, and they're going to get somebody. They're going to beat somebody they're not supposed to beat. They're going to upset somebody at some point in time. And I'm going to tell you, if they will play like they played last night and build off that moving forward with some consistency, there's not going to be a ton of teams in the country who want to play them in the tournament until you get deep into that tournament, because they're going to be a problem for some teams in the postseason, in my opinion, because teams they play don't see it every day. And I think this is a team that showed signs last night. They're taking some strides. They have to build off last night more than any loss, because that was the most complete loss they have this season. I know that's a bad phrase, but they were really in it. This was not a furious rally late. They were in that game for all 40 minutes and just didn't make a couple of critical plays at the end, and obviously missed some offensive rebound opportunities that they've got to clean those things up on the glass.
Oh, you got a little passionate talking
I love
about
it.
there right there.
Excellent. The best. Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's joining us Friday mornings here on the show. Always appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of the week, and enjoy the weekend, all right?
Yes,
You too,
sir.
Hubbs.
You as well. Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's this morning, brought to you by Ascend Federal Credit Union, your financial partner for every stage of life. Really good basketball last night. I watched that whole game.
It was.
Tell you what, that team, just as a neutral, I mean, as many threes as they shoot, they full court press 44% of the trips down the floor, which leads all of women's college basketball. It's just fun to watch, even if you have no loyalty to it.
Yep.
It is a fascinating
So she did
style
have
of
her
play.
baby, right?
She did.
Yeah.
In Knoxville, I think. So I don't think she
Yeah,
traveled.
she did not travel with them to Austin.
Okay.
615-737-1045. Coming up, the Jags' long national nightmare is over. We'll talk about the hire they are expected to make. Did they come out of this actually better after all the fiasco? We'll talk about it next.